The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the program. Thank you so much for being with us. Now is the time where we do what we call a small business spotlight. This is where we want to highlight an Arkansas small business. We want you to understand that small business is the backbone of our economy here in the state of Arkansas. And I would like to introduce you. Welcome to the program. Mr. Aaron Wright joins us. Aaron, welcome to the program.
Hey, thank you for the opportunity to be on with you.
Yes, sir. I'm really glad that you could do this. And you are the owner of a company. Is it based out of Springdale? Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Springdale, Arkansas.
And it's called United Robotics. It sounds complicated. Tell us about it.
Well, it's not. It actually kind of leads into one of the questions you asked me about. But we do industrial robotics. We do things where we weld with a robot. We move material. We load and unload machines. We plasma cut, dispense glue, things of that nature. Wow.
Yeah, it does sound complicated, though. I mean, Mr. Wright, it really does.
It can be, but yeah, it's a machine just like any other, and once you learn the various ways to operate it, it's no more difficult than baking a pie or something like that. So
what's your background in this? How did you, you get into this? Like, how did you get the idea to start your own business?
It was I've had kind of a long and winding road, but I'm a firm believer in technical education. Out of high school, I got a vocational scholarship to travel to Germany and work as a mechanic. And while I was there, I met a fellow student that was a welder, and that seemed more interesting than auto mechanics at the time. So I got into welding, and then that led into a teaching career in welding, which in turn led into selling welding supplies. And at that point, the company I was working for bought a robotic integrator, and that gentleman and I got along like brothers. And long story short, the welding company really wanted to sell a commodity, and robotics is really highly customized no matter how you cut it. So after about 3 years with them, they decided that we wanted to amicably part company, and we really liked selling robots. So at that time, we changed our name from Arc Automation, which had been based out of Batesville since the early 90s, and we changed our name to United Robotics and based it out of Springdale, Arkansas.
Wow. Has the move been, a success, and has the change in name been a success? Everything's still on the up and up? Almost
like from day one, changing our name from Arc Automation, and that originally stood for Advanced Robotic Concepts, which was more focused on welding. And almost from the first day in business, somehow, I don't know if it was subconscious on our part or just a better name recognition, we moved more into material handling, which stacking and unstacking from conveyors, palletizing, that nature, along with, the welding that we were already doing. And it's really helped boost our business. And I can't say we've done a ton of business in the Springdale area, even though it is robotics rich. But being centrally located and being near the Tulsa, Springfield, Oklahoma City, North Texas, I mean, that's about a 300-mile driving range. That's really helped us out quite a bit.
Wow. We're talking with Aaron Wright. He's the owner of United Robotics. Let me ask you this. Was starting this whole process, would you define it as something that was easy?
I wouldn't say easy, but it was organic. I mean, we were already in the position, we had the building, we had all the tools. So when it was time to start the business, the most difficult part was just kind of leaping the hurdles that you have to on paper, filing for articles of incorporation, determining whether you wanted to be a C Corp or an S Corp. And a lot of when you're dealing with state and federal government, a lot of that process seems very archaic. It's still paper-based. Mail this in, call us back once you have this. It's not as fluid as a lot of the other things that we're, experiencing on with smartphones and just doing things online. So that was, one of the things that was more of a hurdle than I expected. But other than that, once you can swallow the bone of paying payroll tax and all that, you get back to work. You get back to work and you do what you do.
So you would say some of your obstacles were just, hey, we've got to comply with the law here.
Absolutely, which I expect, and it's not, it wasn't an issue, but to ask what the difficult part was, we already knew how to do our job. We already had work on the table, and we were lucky in that regard. So I guess to answer your question, it was as easy as starting a business as it could be.
Okay.
I watched my parents start a business, and they really struggled because they started, scratch started, and I wouldn't consider what we did a scratch start.
Mm-hmm.
I had the leads and whatnot that my business partner Randy Luster had generated over the previous more than a dozen years, and we immediately launched into work, and we're very busy. So that was a blessing.
Good. So how many, was it just you two when you started, and is it still you two, or do you guys have employees?
We do have employees. It was originally 3 partners, myself, Randy Luster, and another gentleman that was a minor partner. And after a couple of years, I guess it wasn't easy for him. He said the strain of the job was a bit too much, so we bought out his share. So currently it's 2 partners and 3 employees.
Oh, wow. 3 employees. What's your relationship like with your employees?
I would say it's really good. I mean, I've always subscribed to the you can be friendly, but not friends. I mean, you need to have a separation between yourself and your employees where you respect each other. I try to be very humble and take any suggestion or good idea that comes from within my workforce and utilize that. So I feel like we've got a great relationship that's very fluid and dynamic.
Yeah. So you might have already answered this one, but some things about your industry the average person wouldn't know. And you mentioned some of the things that you've been doing or that you do, but I mean, can you elaborate on that at all?
Sure. I guess kind of back to your original question about whether or not this was a complicated job or not. I think a lot of people would be surprised to find that robotics has really trickled down. I mean, there is a lot of businesses that are using robotics that from the outside, the building looks rather mundane, and once you get inside, they have advanced capabilities such as laser cutting, water jet cutting, CNC machining, robotics, things like that are going on that a lot of people don't realize is happening, right near them. I mean, it's going on all over. So in the past 20 years or so, robotics has really become a go-to resource for people that want to make themselves competitive and not so much displace workers, but just increase quality, increase throughput, and just make their goods more easily competitive with things coming out of China and Mexico.
We're talking with Aaron Wright. He's the owner of United Robotics, located out of Springdale. This is our small business spotlight. Do you buy the idea? I don't know if it was. I guess it might have been former President Obama when the economy was doing poorly and there weren't any jobs, and he cited things like ATM machines. There's not a bank teller anymore. There's more ATMs, and so that's why we have less jobs. I mean, and to that, you said it's not to displace workers. I mean, do we want the market of today always, or do we want new markets and new new ways of doing business and creating prosperity?
I think we've always looked at new ways of creating business and chasing prosperity. I mean, you don't have to go very far back to find Eli Whitney. He completely changed the face of how cotton was processed. You move forward to, I'm sure there was a lot of upset stevedores when the diesel engine became the de facto, driver for industry. I feel like robotics is no different. I mean, most of the time, it goes into a business, no one is displaced, but their capacity goes up, their throughput goes up, and a lot of times their quality and reject rate, or their quality goes up and the reject rate goes down. Yeah. So I see it to be a win-win all the way around.
Yeah, I would agree with you. So let me ask you about the government. You mentioned, starting the business and the things you had to do. What about now? Like, you guys, obviously, you've been in business a while now. You think the government makes things easier, harder? What could it do better? What could it do less of? Or do you have an opinion on that?
I don't know if I have, just an opinion on the government per se. That's not something that's forefront in my mind day to day. Just like anybody else, I watch the news and I'm looking for the economy to turn around, which it seemed to do, at least in our sense, when the election occurred. 2016 was a rough year for capital goods. meaning durable goods like machinery and the types of items that I sell. It just seemed like everybody was holding their breath, and there was this pent-up demand. And there was so many times that somebody said, "Oh, we've signed that approval for funds expenditure, but it's on so-and-so's desk. They just haven't released it yet." And as soon, I mean, literally like the next day after the election, we got a major purchase order. And from there, it's just been game on. I mean, I've spent so much time. If we could eat proposals, we'd be fat right now. But there is a lot of interest, and so much has broken loose since the turn of the year that I foresee 2017 to be a great year for industry.
Well, and let me just build on that. I mean, if there are any politicians, who are listening to the program, I mean, that right there tells you why tax reform, in my opinion, has got to be done this year. I think that's the main reason. I think they knew, one candidate was going to, not feel as entitled to the wealth that you create, and that's why people are like, okay, expand. The other candidate, it's like, why do I want to expand, if you're going to raise my taxes, if I'm going to, make $1 and you're going to try to take 75 cents of it? I mean, and that to me, because you're not the only person, Aaron, that said that to me right after the election. They saw this huge surge in projects and people who are wanting to expand their business.
Absolutely. And I mean, I also own a second business that's rent houses, and we've considered doing some different rent acquisition methods. And when you start talking to some folks that are taking some, handouts, I mean, you can tell that just their incentive is robbed from them. So we've maintained, just doing standard rentals to folks, and it seems to weed out some of the tougher people to rent to, if you get my drift. And, the people that are working and have, a steady paycheck seem glad to pay their rent and have a nice place to live, which is what we strive to supply to them.
Wow. Well, hey, I certainly appreciate it, Mr. Aaron Wright, you coming on the program for our Small Business Spotlight. Your website, if people are interested, I mean, I was looking at it earlier, UnitedRoboticsInc.com. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
United Robotics INC, and you can kind of click around there and just kind of see what they're about. But hey, it's been a privilege. I enjoy highlighting, an Arkansas business. And hey, last question, and feel free to answer this however you want. But have you ever gotten a phone call from the government saying that they want to subsidize your business so that you can expand?
No.
Okay. Well, a lot of big businesses get that phone call, and I just, you ever feel that that's not fair, or do you agree with that idea, or what are your thoughts on that?
I agree. I agree completely, and I mean that would be an excellent driver. Now we could have gone to the Small Business Administration, when we started out, but we were lucky enough to have our own seed money, and I've attended some of their presentations, and I think that's a good administration to deal with. But no, I've never gotten that call, and that would be lovely to have that opportunity.
Yeah, it doesn't happen with small businesses very often. I kind of think I think it's unfair. I mean, I think the whole thing's unfair. I wouldn't do it at all. But
right.
To me, because see, you're the backbone. To me, most of our jobs are from businesses like yours, that are scattered
Correct.
across the land, not these guys that they try to lure them here and then they can be lured away. But you're going to stay right here in all probability. So,
right,
anyway.
Right. I'm a firm believer in American industry. I've come from a long line of hand workers and craftsmen, and that's what I strive to do. And so I'm very excited about working with industry, and so far it's been very satisfying.
Mr. Aaron Wright, I appreciate it, sir. You're certainly a guy that I don't think anybody could say you didn't build that, because you're literally building that. So
we're building it every day, and we're helping other people build things too.
All right.
So, Paul, thanks for the time.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Be safe. Folks, we're going to take a break. That was Mr. Aaron Wright from United Robotics. We will be back. The Liberty Machine rolls on next.